Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite springtime desserts. It's a homemade crème fraiche cheesecake. Now this recipe is going out to Anna from Malaysia. Anna, you have been very patient with me as you have waited for this recipe. Well, today is your day and I'm going to show you how to make a killer homemade cheesecake. So we're first going to create the crust for our cheesecake. Traditionally, cheesecake is made with graham crackers, and that is the basis for the crust. The easiest thing to do is just to put your graham crackers in a Ziploc bag and give them a good whack with a rolling pin. That will prevent having to drag out the food processor and then clean it, one of my worst kitchen chores. Once your graham crackers are finely ground, you're going to transfer them to a bowl, add a little bit of sugar and salt. Then we're going to add 6 tablespoons of melted butter. Now the trick with the melted butter when it comes to a graham cracker crust is to go easy on the butter. We've all had those cheesecakes where you bite into it and the crust is hard as brick. It's usually because there's too much butter in it. So you really want to go easy on it, and that will give you a nice crumbly crust, which is, in my opinion, the mark of a great cheesecake. Now to make a cheesecake, you really need to invest in a 9-inch spring-form pan. A spring-form pan is essentially just a cake pan that has a springed ring to it. And what that will do is allow your cheesecake to easily release once it's cooked. They're really critical for a cheesecake, so if you don't have one, you can usually pick one up for under $10, and they're a great investment to make. You want to butter the bottom and the sides of the springform pan to allow your cheesecake to release once it's done. Then you're going to take your crumbly mixture, you're going to pour the whole thing in the bottom of the pan, and then you're going to start to pat it down. And at first you might be thinking, oh my gosh, how is this ever going to turn into a crust? But it does, and here's a little trick for you. You want to take a measuring cup and just kind of push it into the side of the ring, moving the pan as you go. And you will see that will help it adhere to the sides all the way around the ring. And then here's the final tip to get a pretty crust. You want to then take your finger and along the top of the graham cracker crust, just pat it down. You basically are trying to create a uniform ring so that the edges are all roughly the same size. This will allow for your cheesecake to have a really pretty crust once you release the mold and prevent kind of that ragged crust looking cheesecake that we've probably all seen. Then you're going to pop your crust in the oven at 325 for anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes. So now for our filling. So for me, the secret of a light, fluffy cheesecake is to use already whipped cream cheese. Now cheesecakes are also known for their tang, and the tang is typically coming from sour cream. But for me, I like my cheesecake to be more luxurious and creamy, and I kind of go easy on the tang. So I like to use crème fraiche instead. Crème fraiche is just a French product that mimics sour cream, but for me it's not as tangy, and it's really delicious in something like a cheesecake because it'll help with the texture and make it all the more smooth, creamy, and delicious. Then you're also going to add your sugar. You're going to beat that all up just until combined, and then you're going to add your eggs. The secret with the eggs though is to get the balance right between whole eggs and egg yolks. And I've done a lot of experimentation, and for me I find the best combination are 2 whole eggs to 3 egg yolks. So go ahead and add your eggs one at a time, making sure that each one is well incorporated before adding the next, and then scrape down the bowl and give it one good final whirl. Now a lot of people at this stage would add lemon zest to a cheesecake, and that is good, you could definitely do that. But I tend to like to use vanilla instead, especially for this recipe because we're going to be adding raspberries on top, which have a little bit of a bitter tang to them anyway. I like to use vanilla beans instead of vanilla extract in this because it tends to look a little bit more gourmet and impressive. But if you can't find the vanilla beans, or if they're really expensive where you live, because sometimes they can be, then definitely use a vanilla extract. That would work as well. Give that a good mix, and then you're going to add your flour. The flour is also going to help with the structure and make it a little bit more cake-like so that when you actually cut into the cheesecake, you'll get cleaner cuts. At this point, your crust is nice and cool, and you can go ahead and pour the filling into the pan. I know there are bakers out there that swear by the bain-marie. If you're not familiar with a bain-marie, it's basically taking a pan of hot water, wrapping your cheesecake in foil, placing it in the water, and baking it that way. And a lot of people swear by this because they say it makes a creamier, more luxurious cheesecake. I have tried it that way, I've done it both, and I can tell you this, with this recipe, it makes no difference. So I say don't go through the effort of a bain-marie because it can be kind of a pain, and just pop your cheesecake in the oven. So typically what I will do is at the hour mark, I will insert a toothpick and see if it comes out looking like a cheesecake center. You're not looking for it to actually come out clean, but you just don't want it to come out gooey and wet inside. That means it's not done. It needs at least another 10 to 15 minutes. If it comes out looking like kind of fluffy, like a cheesecake center, then you know it's done, and go ahead and pull it out. So while your cheesecake is baking, you can then get on with making the homemade whipped cream for the topping. You're going to whisk together some heavy cream, some vanilla, and some powdered sugar. So whisk that up just until stiff peaks form. You really want to make sure that that whipped cream is stiff because you're going to eventually transfer it into a pastry bag with a star tip. You're going to be using this whipped cream in a decorative fashion, so it's really a lot better if it has some structure to it. Now when your cheesecake is done, let it cool for just about 10 minutes and then release it from the springform pan. At that point, go ahead and pop it in the fridge. Your cheesecake should really be completely cold before you go ahead and put the topping on it. 4 hours or sometimes even overnight is really ideal. When it comes time to decorating your cheesecake, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna take a half a cup of raspberry jam, pop it in the microwave for about 30 seconds. You just want that jam to become liquefied. If you don't have a microwave, that's okay. You can put it in a little saucepan and heat it over a low flame. You're then gonna allow it to cool slightly. You don't wanna put hot jam onto your nicely cooled cheesecake. And then slowly spoon over the jam on top of the cheesecake, spreading it all around just until you get a nice thin layer. On top of the jam, you're gonna add some fresh raspberries. And then the final step is to take your homemade whipped cream, transfer it into a pastry bag fitted with a star tip, and go ahead and create little rosettes all around the perimeter of the cheesecake. So Anna, there you have it. A homemade cheesecake that will definitely impress your new husband and probably your new in-laws too. I hope you give this one a try and let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys back here next week when I'm going to share with you another easy and delicious recipe. I'll see you then.